Hello everyone, thank you for clicking on this video. I'm Euphonia, and in this video I'll be going over the new Arcanist class that will be coming out in the Necrom DLC. I'll start by going over the pros and cons, the strengths and weaknesses of the class, then I'll discuss the place in the meta that Arcanist will have, and then I'll go over a brief look at each of the skills, which ones are good in PvP, the better morphs, and which ones you should avoid. And then finally, after my testing that I've been doing for a little over a week on the PTS, I've discovered which playstyles and build types synergize well with the class, and so I'll be going over those. Without further ado, let's get into it. I think the most concise way to describe Arcanist is imagine a necromancer with everything necromancer is, except remove blast bones, their one damaging skill that they have going for them, and replace it with claw level turtling. This class is stupidly tanky, but has absolutely no burst damage. So, the ultimate strengths of this class are that the healing of this class is absolutely ridiculous. The sustain of this class is very strong, but I'm going to get a bit more into that. The tankiness of this class and mitigation is crazy. This makes this class very, very strong for a specific PvP role, and that is support. This class brings a lot of buffs that are very hard to come by otherwise, and just brings them very easily. It also has a ridiculous amount of group support and healing compared to other classes. This is by far the best PvP support PvP support class, and probably PvE as well. Additionally, this class is nigh unkillable if you build it right and try not to die. In order to die, you need to overextend, but also, because this class lacks burst, in order to kill you also need to overextend. Most duels I've had on Arcanist end up with both people, after a few minutes, trying to kill each other and dropping down to 20% HP and one person dies. So that's the primary weakness of this class. Another weakness is talking about sustain. The class looks absolutely crazy on a stat sheet. The passives are incredible and they get stupid levels of recovery. I have 2.7k recovery buffed with just Orzorga. However, the skills of this class cost a rather large amount, and that makes it harder to sustain with a smaller pool of resources, but you sort of need to, because all of the survivability of the class comes from stacking into max HP, sort of like a Warden with Polar Wind, except way more than Polar Wind, and so you're sort of forced into building around health and then speccing everything else into damage, because just building health gives you enough survivability to tank anything, and then from there you're left with needing to parse through sustain with heavy attacks and stuff. So all in all, this class is very tanky, it lacks a lot of damage, and you need to get that through sets and stats, and primarily proc sets, it turns out. So if the Arcanist has almost no kill potential, but is very tanky, where does it fit into the meta? Obviously, Arcanist is the best support class by far in PvP. It also happens to be in PvP, unless it gets nerfed, but I don't think it's going to change that. If you want a healer in your group for PvP, Arcanist is the best choice. However, if you are looking for a damage role in a group, or you're trying to play a group support role, but also bring damage, if you have a support in your group, Arcanist is already going to be there. Warden is such a good fill in sort of that, like, can still do damage slot, but also brings group support. So does Nightblade. Both Nightblade and Warden fulfill that role so well. And in a 1vx, Warden, Nightblade, and DK will all outshine Arcanist. Even in duels, Arcanist's main strength in a duel is that you can drop down to low health, you can make really ballsy plays, and by doing that, profit and end up getting the kill. But the thing is, in order to get most kills, in order to secure most kills, it involves making those ballsy plays. It involves dropping down to 10% HP while you're still attacking them, and that's not something that you can afford to do open world. This means Arcanist overall is going to be more of a mid-tier class, unlike Release, Warden, and Necromancer, which were both absolutely disgustingly strong. Arcanist will be unkillable. They're going to have Arcanists running around towers tanking like 10 people, but those Arcanists aren't going to kill anyone. The only way to kill someone as an Arcanist is to spec full into damage, and that's you're still be survivable, but it still doesn't have the same burst as classes like Sork or a Warden or a Nightblade, and it doesn't have the pressure of a DK. Even in duels, DK mops the floor with Arcanist. Like, despite being a pressure class and you being able to avoid almost all of the pressure by just shielding, you don't have the ability to actually kill a DK. If they pop corrosive, they're going through all of the resistances on your shield, you start melting, and eventually you'll die, you'll be worn out. And it just feels like Arcanist is in such a weird place where it's overtuned in a way that makes it very easy to play, but undertuned in the place that makes it viable to run, if that makes sense. All in all, Nightblade will still be the top class. Warden and DK are very similar for those second and third spots, and Arcanist will come in a little below that. Sork is actually quite good in its current state. I would put Sork at number 5 as a class. Necro, after the Harmony nerf, after just Dark Convergence being less useful than it has been in the past, I think Necromancer is a worse class than Magsork, and Stamsork has all sorts of proc builds that absolutely shred. And then the worst class in the game is still Templar. In my opinion, I like it that way. I am quite tired of the 2 years Templar reigns supreme after Blackwood. Now to go over Arcanist's skills. I'll first start with the ultimates. From the offensive tree Herald of the Tome, they have the Unblinking Eye. This shoots a laser out, it does very good damage, and the better morph is called the Tide King's Gaze. This makes the laser follow people, otherwise you need to reposition it, and that takes a global skill cooldown, and I've tried it, it does not work in PvP. The Tide King's Gaze brings pretty good pressure, but with this class's lack of burst, if you have enough DPS, Tide King's Gaze can give you kill potential, but also I would recommend running Dawnbreaker as another ult, because Dawnbreaker gives you ability to actually hit like really hard, really fast. From the Soldier of Apocrypha skill line, this is the tank skill line, they have the ultimate Gibbering Shield. This places a damage shield on you, but instead of ignoring all damage, it allows 40% of damage to pass through, so you take 60% less damage, the damage shield takes 60% of that damage. And when it ends, it places a dot around your feet. It's a very, very small area. It deals the total damage that you took, that the shield took, so 60% of the damage you took during that time. It deals all of that damage that the shield took in an area around your feet. Over 10 seconds, it ticks every 2 seconds. This shield is based on your max health, so the higher your max health is, the higher the shield scales, which means the higher maximum damage it can absorb, so the more damage you can potentially deal. It has 2 morphs, both are actually useful. Sanctum of the Abyssal Sea is better for a solo player. This increases how big the shield is, and this will be better for if you're running around trying to 1vx. And the second morph is Gibbering Shelter. This makes it so it no longer deals damage when it ends, but when you get hit, it puts a damage shield on all of your allies. So, if you're playing a support, you're taking a lot of pressure, you can pop this, you are still taking pressure, you're taking 60% less damage, very big shield on you, because it scales very well with max HP, and all your allies are getting damage shields on them as well, so they're not gonna die. Overall, I still feel like as a healer, it might be worthwhile to run the other morph, Sanctum of the Abyssal Sea, because it hits so hard. Here's a clip from an EU player named Fuketsu. He did testing with this shield to see how hard it can actually hit when it breaks. He allowed me to use these clips. I've linked them in the description. And so these can hit very hard. I've seen 20k ticks. I've seen, I believe he hit a 34k tick. This can hit absolutely devastatingly. If people are not paying attention, you pop this, they're standing too close to you, or you can CC them and they can't break free while in this, it will melt them. This ult is so good. Finally, for the final ult in the Curative Runeform skill line, this is the heal skill line, we have Vitalizing Glyphic. This and all of its morphs are not useful in PvP really whatsoever. I can see them finding use in PvE for like stacking the glyphs on top of each other, giving everyone loads of weapon and spell damage, but the healing is very minimal. Weapon and spell damage does not give that much. It should be a much higher value if it wanted to be viable in PvP. Just in general, not a great ultimate. Hello, Editor Euphonia here. To correct what I've said about this ultimate, it actually can find one use. If you take the morph of this that you can deal damage to, this was also shown to me by Fuketsu, so big shout out to him. Battle Spirit is not applied to this, which means it undergoes the exact same oversight that, with Trifocus that goes on when you're attacking enemies in IC with heavy attacks. Same thing where you can heavy attack a boss in IC and be hitting people for like 20k ticks of a lightning staff heavy attack. You can heavy attack this ultimate and it will hit people for 20k heavy attacks. So it can find use. This will probably be fixed, but if it's not, you can wipe people with this ultimate. Then, starting off with the useful skills, the offensive skills that are useful. Best one is Rune Blades, specifically the Escalating Rune Blades morph. Rune Blades at base deals the exact same damage as Crushing Shock per hit. It hits 3 times, and each hit does the same damage as a Crushing Shock hit. Escalating Rune Blades makes it so that each hit deals increasing damage to 20% higher than the initial hit is what the final hit does, and it's also AoE. This skill, every time you use it, it generates Crux, which is the Arcanist unique mechanic for like priming and consuming different skills to give bonus effects. Writhing Runeblades gives crit chance, but even on a crit build, I felt like Escalating Runeblades was outperforming it. Escalating Runeblades is actually a very, very good spammable. If you're playing Arcanist and you're not running Dizzy Swing or Blood for Blood, Escalating Runeblades is going to be your main spammable. Then there's the book. This is the Laser Beam. It looks really cool. The Kamehameha, it's whatever. This skill sucks. It's way too hard to hit. Doesn't deal enough damage, like, per hit for it to actually be worth running, because it can deal a lot of damage very, very quickly if people stand still, but if someone moves, it desyncs, it hits once every 0.3 seconds, which means you might hit like 1 out of every 5 ticks. I would not recommend using this. Tentacular Dread is the tentacle ability. It's okay. If you bring the Cephalarch's Flail, this is the stamina morph, it generates Crux. I think this is the better morph. This could be changed by adding a stronger execute to it, maybe make it like 300% more damage, not quite an executioner, but still like respectable, because this skill hits so weak. It's just really not worth it to run it other than for generating Crux if you have nothing else that does. It also gives a 5% damage taken debuff on the enemy. Now onto a skill that you are probably going to want to run regardless of your build, which is Tome Bearer's Inspiration. This is the slottable Major Brutality and Sorcery buff. In addition to that, it also makes it so that when you hit, it puts a buff on you every 5 seconds, and while you have that buff on you, if you hit someone with a any Arcanist ability, it will deal a little extra damage with that, and if you have 0 Crux and that extra damage hits, it will generate Crux for you. If you are using Escalating Rune Blades, the better morph of this is the one that makes this give you the buff every 3 seconds instead of 5 seconds. It will increase your damage done, and as this class doesn't have much damage, the more pressure you have, the better. The other morph is still good. This makes it restore magic and stamina. It amounts to roughly like 240 magic and stamina recovery. This class has enough of it though, it's not needed. I do think Inspired Scholarship is the better morph. The offensive skill line also has something called the Imperfect Ring. This is a like AoE dot that you target someone with. It also brings a synergy. In my opinion, it's very bad. I've tried using it, other people have used it against me. It's outperformed by even pretty bad dots like Degeneration. Onto the Soldier of Apocrypha skill line. The Taunt is not a useful skill in PvP. However, the Ward, Runespite Ward, is absolutely broken. Specifically, the Impervious Rune Ward morph. This makes it you consume Crux to heal yourself, and this morph makes it so the first second the shield is on you, it's like 50% bigger. It's absolutely crazy. I have hit like 40k shield tooltips on normal builds with this. This skill is so ridiculously overtuned. The only survivability tool you need on this class is this shield with stacking HP. You build 40k plus HP, put Vigor in the shield on, you're good. You can't die unless you try to. Then they have the Major Resolve buff called Fate Woven Armor. The better morph of this, in my opinion, is Crux Weaver Armor. It makes it so that whenever you take damage up to once every 5 seconds, it generates Crux. So if you have Inspired Scholarship with this, you are getting pretty good passive Crux generation for your improved Impervious Rune Ward, which gives you a burst heal when it consumes Crux. Runic Defense gives you, what it does is it gives you Minor Resolve, Minor Protection, and then when you drop below 50% HP, it consumes the Minor Protection and gives you a burst heal. This burst heal scales off max health. I don't know if you have room for this skill on every build, but if you get the Rune Guard of Freedom morph, this one gives you crowd control immunity and 3k armor when the burst heal happens. It's really, really strong. This skill, I don't know if I would use it in every build, just because I feel like there's other skills I would rather run and there's not a lot of bar space, but this skill is really, really, really strong. Do not be surprised to find tons of people running it. And then the class stun is called the Rune of Eldritch Horror. This you put it on someone. After a 1 second delay, it stuns them, gives them minor vulnerability, and the ability itself cannot be dodged. The better morph of this is the Rune of Uncanny Adoration. This makes it Charm instead of Stun, and for whatever reason, I don't know if this is intended or not, Charm is unblockable. So if you hit someone with this, they cannot block the stun, they will still get hit by it even if they try to block it. Whereas the other morph, you can see the ability get applied to you, you have 1 second to tap block and you won't get stunned. The other morph does bring minor brittle, which is 10% more critical damage taken, which is still good. And if they fix the charm stunning through block, then I would say the other morph is better. Finally, onto the heal skill line. Rune Mend is basically Rune Blades, but it's a heal. It does very good healing. I think the better morph is Evolving Rune Mend. This makes it give a heal over time. Remedy Cascade is a healing version of the beam. However, it heals yourself, and whereas the damage beam does a lot of damage but can't hit, this will always hit you, and it does a ridiculous amount of healing. It is OP as hell. I've seen people be taken from like 20% to 100% in like 1 second, less than a second. It's basically like Coag Blood, except even better because it can heal other people at the same time. I think the better morph is Cascading Fortune. This heals more on low health targets. The reason this is better is because you can be interrupted out of this skill, so you want to be using this like a burst heal. Then there's the Chakram Shields. This is, you place damage shields on other people. This is a morph for like a healer. The better morph of this is Chakram of Destiny. This generates Crux every time you use it, and if you recast the shield, and it like puts it on someone who already has the shield, it'll refill the shield and make it bigger than it normally is. The other one, Consuming Crux, I don't think is useful. Then there's Arcanist Domain. The better morph of this is Zenith's Empowering Disc, because it makes the effects last on you. It's a sticky buff instead of only being while you're in the area. It gives minor courage, minor fortitude, minor intellect, minor endurance. In total, between the passives and the major and minor versions of these recovery buffs, it is a total of 70% with more recovery that you get for being an Arcanist. It is absolutely crazy. The other morph makes you heal while inside of it. The heal is pitiful. The sticky buffs are better. And then finally, there's Apocryphal Gate. This is the teleport. I can see it being useful in some builds as a movement tool. Fleet-footed Gate gives you movement speed. This is going to be better if you're solo. And then the other one gives your allies a synergy to teleport through it. This is going to be better if you're in a duo per se with someone who's not an Arcanist. I can't say how useful this will be open world because I've heard that the elevation can make it really wonky to use, and Cyrodiil isn't exactly fully flat, so I'm sure this could be hard to use in Cyrodiil, but if it works well, it could be a great kiting tool for open world PvP. So, what worked well on Arcanist? Obviously, you can run any of the meta sets. You can put on Master Dual Wield, you can put on Vanisher and Ice Staff, you can put on Balorg, Zahn, Roxa, Bloodspawn, Rallying Cry, His Sap, Mars, although that is getting nerfed next patch and finally getting a 30-second cooldown. However, I've sort of narrowed it down to 3, maybe 4-ish playstyles that really synergize with how Arcanist has been constructed. The first of which is playing it with a damage gun set. This could be either Draugr or Dragon's Appetite. Draugr would be for a mag build. This would play similar to a Magsork. This is what you've seen me running in most of these clips. And Dragon's Appetite would be running a Master's dual wield front bar. With Dragon's Appetite on your body, you get the damage done from Draugr, but instead of decreasing your healing, you instead get random burst heals that will occur through Dragon's Appetite, although they're not exactly random. These are both very strong setups. One is ranged, one is melee, one is more stam focused, one is more mag focused. The second playstyle that really works that I've been having a lot of fun with is Blood for Blood. This complements Arcanist very well because, unlike most other classes, Arcanist gets a lot of power from stacking max HP. You can do the same exact thing on Warden. It's very fun to play Blood for Blood Warden. However, stacking HP on Warden, Polar Wind is the only thing that benefits from it, and it does not benefit nearly as strong as Impervious Rune Ward does. Plus, Polar Wind is a heal. It'll take you out of low HP. Impervious Rune Ward, you cast it, you are protected, you will not die, but you're still at low HP, making Blood for Blood hit really hard. With a high HP pool, you get the bonuses from Blood for Blood damage at higher actual HP values, not percentages, but like, say you have 40k HP, you will get the same bonus at 10k HP as someone with 30k HP would get at like 6k HP. It is a big difference in how easily you get the bonus of the bonus damage from Blood for Blood, and it also really helps to make it easier to survive when you're spamming Blood for Blood. This has been a very fun playstyle. I've been hitting like 12k Blood for Bloods on people. It feels like it has kill potential. Finally, the last playstyle is to play it sort of like a Stamplar right now. Use Dizzy Swing, use Executioner, use Dawnbreaker, and just try to burst people down. You can also use Wrecking Blow, not need to use Sea Serpent Coil, because you get Major Berserk from Wrecking Blow, and then use the Class Stun, which is unblockable, so you can really easily time your combos. I think this is a better playstyle. Sets that pair well with this would be like Essence Thief or Red Mountain. This is where the proc sets come in. Red Mountain works very well on this build. The dot builds, the Draugr Dragon's Appetite build, you can also replace Dragon's Appetite and Draugr for Way of Fire as a proc set, and that works very, very well. But back onto this, out of anything when I've been fighting Arcanist, any build that has killed me the most, around 80% of the time, it's been a two-handed Stamina Arcanist. This, I think, is the highest damage, highest kill potential build, because you get in Execute and Executioner. But yeah, I will be making build videos for Arcanist. I am not going to do that right now because everything is subject to change on the PTS. This video, skills might be nerfed, skills might be buffed, but I think in general the playstyle of Arcanist will remain the same, which is why I think this video will still remain useful even once Arcanist goes live. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like. If you want to see my builds once Arcanist comes out, please hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. Have a nice day. Thank you. See you in the next one.